Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to Tool Show with me, Master Dan, the Journeyman shooter. And today it's a beautiful morning here up in Crescent Heights, and as you can see, there's a big giant Chinook arch coming across the Rocky Mountains there in the background, and I figured why not do one of our little coffee time segments, and we go for a little walk here and have some fun. It's a beautiful day, why not? And we figure, yeah, it's just a great time to get out and have a little coffee time where we just do a little quick talk, and I don't know, basically it's just a talk with a master level electrician about coffee and about the trades. No, I'm just kidding, it's not about coffee. It's just what we do while we talk about the trades and all the other construction cool stuff that's going on. And there's a lot of cool stuff in the world that you can talk about with construction, and there's a billion different things that you can do with construction. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Is part of starting construction, I guess, is getting in there, and then once you get in there, what can you do after? Because nobody wants to do this for the rest of their lives. It's a really crappy job, and you're kind of stuck doing this forever, basically. If you get in there and you get good at it, then people are going to want you to keep going at it, and it's just one of those things where you're stuck basically in a cycle that's just going over and over again, and it drives you crazy because, yeah, nobody wants to do construction forever. It's grimy, it's grungy, it's dirty, it's a good, honest life, and you make decent money for what you do, but it's just nobody wants to be down in a hole digging mud forever. Or worse, because yeah, if you get into plumbing, oh my gosh, it's not just mud sometimes there. It could be a lot more interesting things, and I don't want to say what they are. But so one of those things is, yeah, you got to have a plan for what you want to do after, because especially there's certain trades that you can get into that kind of go into other trades basically, and they branch off into other stuff. Like electrical can go into a billion different things. You can become a security installer and go and do security for people, make sure that everything's safe. I know I've done some pretty cool art vaults and some stuff that most people have never seen because it's security and you'll never see it again. So it's, yeah, you see it one time and you're lucky enough to get to do that. But that's one of the cool things, is you can branch off into a security side of it, or communications, because communications is the future. There's going to be, the internet's always going to be changing. There's going to be the fiber optics are coming out, and the crazier stuff, and the 4Ks, and all the other new stuff that's all out there. And that's why you want to be able to kind of branch off into one of those as well. And same with plumbing, that kind of stuff branches off as well, even though it's like one of the worst jobs you could get into right off the bat. If you're doing old renovations, if you're doing new stuff, it's not bad, because I've had friends that do the new stuff, and they've told me it's much better than having to go into a house and fix a toilet that's been there for 20, 30 years, because oh, could you imagine the things that poor room has seen? yeah, and it better keep its mouth shut. No, I'm just kidding. It's that's not its fault, but it's just part of it. And same with, like, I don't know, there's a billion different things. Like if you get into metal restoration, you can get into art, or welding. There's a lot of beautiful welding art. I've had some of my best friends out there are welders, and they make some amazing stuff. Even my one friend, Sinead, you can go check out her other, it's one of our segments on the tool side of it where we're doing welding, and she taught me about her welding art, and it's really cool stuff, great stuff to learn. And that's kind of something that you can branch off into, because I know I've seen some amazing copper art, because electricians always mess with copper, and especially when you're stuck up north and you've got nothing to do, you make some flowers for your girlfriend or something like that, or you make a whole village of people with copper. And no, just kidding, I may have done that once or twice, but that's a whole different story, and I don't want to get into that one. And that's it. You could start art basically just like this, or you could go to teaching. I know I've had some great friends that are teachers right now at many different colleges all over Canada, because they started a trade when they were younger and they ended up moving into teaching. And it's just like what I wanted to do, but I'd like to do it on a bigger scale. Instead of 30 people at a time, I don't mind 30 million. It's or 30, well, there's not 30 billion yet, but someday maybe it'll get that big, and then by that point everybody will be my friend, and then we'll all be able to do cool stuff together, like ride dirt bikes, or maybe jump a river on a dirt bike or something. I'm just thinking about dirt bikes right now, and I'd really like a dirt bike, but I can't afford it because it's out of my price range, and I've got too many other goals and dreams that I want. So that's just part of it. You got to be smart and save your money for the things that you want to do. But so that's what we're just talking about, is branching off, and that's part of it. Is a lot of the time, I know with me personally, the reason why I like acting and why I like doing the TV show side of it is because that's what you do every day when you go to work. You act like you want to be there, and you put on a positive attitude, a nice smile, and yeah, you get places. People want to be around you. They don't want to be around negative Nancy all the time there, that's bringing everybody down and they're bringing up the worst of the worst every single day. You got to have a positive attitude, and you can't just sit around and expect stuff to happen. But that's it. You got to have a plan, because really it only takes 4 years for you to get like a journeyman license in most things, and that's where you actually have to earn it. But that 4 years flies by, because I know being in the trades, I've gotten so many friends in, and it's like, oh, I'm already a journeyman. It's like, wow, you really flew by. And if you're smart enough and you can actually do the schooling, and because certain trades are tough, they made you think that in the 60s and 70s that any bully that was in high school got forced into the trades, so that's what it was. But a lot of the formulas, especially with electrical, the formulas, it's a university level degree that you get by the time you're done, basically, when you think about the science and physics of it, because flow and current and volts and resistance, all that adds up to some pretty genius stuff that regular guys are supposed to learn. But you just got to be able to kind of branch off after it, and you have a plan, because 4 years, it goes by so fast. And especially some of those trades, they'll grant you special background knowledge so you can go back and get a second trade. Because I know when I first started at my first job at the wastewater treatment plant, I think he was the head of the whole plant, basically. He was a dual tradesman, where he had a plumbing ticket, and I think he also had a welding or maybe electrical, one of the cool ones. But he had two dual tickets, and that's kind of another part, is you could always get into a second trade, like especially once you're done. I always said if I had to do another trade, I'd probably do goldsmithing, because I figured goldsmithing would be pretty cool. Or could you imagine being a goldsmith? That's a pretty rare title to get, especially nowadays, and it's something that most people are kind of going away from. So why not become a goldsmith, or why not become a cool trade and get your second trade in there? And that could always build up to other stuff. I know I have one friend, he's a great guy. He work up north basically all the time. He came from my hometown, and it's kind of funny because I've seen him all over Alberta now, and especially a couple times we just ran into each other randomly in Red Deer or some crazy place like that. But he's traveling the world because he's out there. He started a trade. He got his I think it was heating and cooling he did first off the bat, and then he was working up north at a camp that was 14 days on, so he'd work for 14 days and he'd get 7 days off. But on his 7 days off, he'd fly straight to Mexico, and they'd fly him right to Mexico for the days off, and he'd go live there and met a great girl. He ended up, I don't know if he's still with the girl or not, but did amazing, made a lot of good money, and then he ended up getting his journeyman license as a heating and cooling guy. And then he decided, well, I want to go back and do something else. And especially living in Mexico, most of those resorts, they require you to be a dual ticketed tradesperson. And in Canada, you get one of the best educations you can imagine, because they force you to they try to make you better than everybody else. And even the Canadian provinces all fight to try to make you better than the other Canadian provinces. That's why I really had to restart my whole program when I got to Alberta from Ontario, because they didn't recognize any of my schooling or my stuff in Alberta, which is the same country. So it's a little bit crazy, but that's what it is, and you just got to be smart about it. You got to just kind of keep going. You can't give up. You can't stop. But getting that dual ticket's a smart one. There's a billion different ways that you can go about this. But yeah, my friend, he said that all those Mexican resorts wanted you to have an electrical ticket and a heating and cooling, because they all have air conditioners and they all deal with electricity. So, and I'm pretty sure he's got his journeyman now. He might live in Mexico. He bought a brand new Ducati bike, and he's living the dream. Especially where we come from back home, there's a lot of guys that are sitting around and hoping for the best. And now with our economy here in Calgary, it's kind of hit the same little rut there. It's like, why can't there just be no obstacles in our way? But yeah, I can see clearly now, and someday those obstacles will be gone. But for now, you just got to kind of keep hopping them, or try to take them in stride. You can't just kind of let them slow you down. You just keep driving through them. It's just like if you're on a bike. I know my dad, he used to drive, he hit a midlife crisis, and he bought the fastest motorcycle that he could physically buy in the world. Basically, it had its own Guinness Book of Records page, and he was saying if there's a bump in the road or something's coming at you, you can't swerve out of the way, especially on one of those big bikes, and so you have to basically ride through it. And that's what it is. You just have to kind of lean back, make sure you ride through it nice and smooth, and hope for the best. You can't just sit around and wait for everything to happen. But that's it. You got to have a plan. In 4 years, it's not that long. So if you get your trade, you can go do whatever you want. And that can always be a fallback, because they can't take it away from you unless, I guess, you burn down a house or something like that. And then they can take it all away from you, and then you're screwed. So, but you don't want to burn down any houses. So that's why you want to learn, and you have to be, professional. You have to learn from some of the best in the world. And that's why starting a trade and learning is a good thing. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. It's a beautiful day out here, and I figured why not just talk about what to do next? Because, you can get into acting. You can become a race car driver, and then you'll have the funds to go back to school, so you can actually afford to pay for your university if you want to go back and become an actor or become a professionally trained whatever. You can do it, and you'll have funds. So that's why you want to be smart, and you want to be out there and always trying to better yourself, because if you get stuck in a rut, they're just going to keep you there. And a lot of companies, they don't mind just keeping that one guy in the same spot and recycling them over and over again, because that's your job for the rest of your life, and you're better than that. You can actually get out there and do stuff and not just sit around and waste your time. So for Tool Show, I'm Master Dan, the Journeyman shooter. Get out there, make a plan, and do something else with your life once you're ready to.